Hey, it's Tom Nondorf from American Cemetery and Cremation magazine.
And I'm Ashlinn Goodman, Director of Cemetery Solutions for Security National.
We're here to talk cemeteries. Cemetery cleanup, right? It's always a good story, a good local story when you have your cemetery cleanup. People, locals, a Boy Scout troop, someone's coming into your cemetery, they're going to help you clean it up. That's great. Those are the nice stories, right? Then you have the not so nice stories. Cemeteries where, oh my God, somebody contacted the local news because they went in to see their grandmother and the vase that they had put out there has been chucked into a big pile. We call it the big pile because it's always a big pile because that's what's going to show up on the local news. You're lucky if they send out a reporter to take photos of your cemetery cleanup with the Boy Scouts, but they absolutely are going to send out a film crew and a reporter to show that big pile of stuff. Ashlyn, what are your thoughts on the big pile, avoiding the trouble of the big pile?
Well, you're so right. They never show the well taken care of cemetery after cleanup or all the beautiful flowers that go up after the fact. They always show, at our cemetery, it was a dumpster, right? And they always showed the dumpster filled with things and how wrong it was, and people were calling and screaming. But here's the thing. First, we all have to be in agreement that cemetery cleanup is a good thing and it is a necessary thing. We cannot have the threadbare philodendrons from 5 years ago still hanging out in the cemetery because it's not attractive for the people that do visit and it's not marketable for the people that potentially want to buy there. But I think that expectation is everything, right? And people have to know that when they purchase spaces or when a death occurs and they are going to have to use one of the spaces they own, what we expect from them. They have to know when the cleanups are. They have to know what types of things are appropriate to put on the gravesite and what are not, because if you try to do that in reverse and have a burial already take place or a sale already take place and then something get placed that's not appropriate or then miss a cleanup, it's never helpful for a family to hear like, well, there's signs all over the cemetery. Well, great, nobody's reading them. But if I have a conversation with you on the front end and we build a little bit of rapport and I say, well, remember, Tom, I said that there were no balloons and that we did cemetery clean off a couple of times a year, that's when people are like, okay, okay, I must have missed it. And there's also signs all around, and you've got a few things now that are working in your favor versus the sorry, can't help you.
Ashlyn is somebody, and you can read. She has both written for and been featured in a couple stories in American Cemetery recently. And one a facet I found fascinating was that you're someone who a big part of your association with cemeteries is because of your mother and the hanging out that you love to do at her gravesite. You're not somebody divorced from the idea of being in a cemetery for very real purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I think after my mom passed away, yes, I was doing some crazy things, and she had so many friends that things were popping up everywhere, and we probably took up a little bit more space when we shouldn't have. But I was there every single day, if not twice a day, to keep it streamlined and take the old stuff and put new stuff out and make sure that things were not getting waterlogged. We weren't leaving like cards and chip bags and cigarette packs and things like that. It was always very clean and what I would like to think is respectful. And to be honest with you, Tom, that can just come from knowing your cemetery too. I made it a habit every single day when I was working to do a loop of my entire cemetery and see everything that was going on so I could catch anything before it became a problem. If the Jones family overnight had gone crazy on their Halloween decorations, I was then comfortable to call them personally and say, Mr. Jones, I completely understand. Your wife has just passed away. I think that your decorations are very, very cute. We are only able to keep two of them out, though. Two would you like me to keep out? And I can leave the rest in the office for you to pick up. Like, you have to have that level of comfort and caring for people if you want people to be held to any standard in your cemetery.
Ultimately, yes, it's going to come down to communication. Um, Inevitably, those stories that make the news, the people will say, well, we had a note in the church bulletin saying that people needed to have their stuff out by this date. Or non-human communication is put up big old signs. And sometimes you go into a store and maybe somebody stole from it at some point. And there's signs everywhere. Don't touch this, and it's like, you don't want that. You don't want to be shopping and be yelled at by pieces of paper. Certainly in a cemetery environment, you don't want to feel like you're being yelled at. I understand the point of posting a few rules about parking or what, and even a gentle sign reminding people this or that. But, if that's the only way you're communicating, and in church bulletins, you're going to run into problems.
Sure, and you either have to be prepared to deal with those problems, or something that I learned a long time ago is everything has to be phrased as what you can do, not what you can't do. So it goes back to the kid around the pool. Don't run doesn't work. Please walk does. And so no balloons or no outside decorations or no this, that, and the other, that doesn't work. But what I would always tell my families is, just so you guys know, what you can have is flowers in your vase, and then you can have 2 additional items outside of that. Now, we can't allow balloons or anything like that. Of course, you understand, because we have wildlife in our cemetery. But what you could do is bring fresh flowers. I can't guarantee you they're going to be out by the morning time once the deer get to them, but you always have to phrase it as what the benefit is for the consumer or for the family, not like they're getting shorted anything, because they're really not. It is for the greater good.
I never want to feel like I'm blaming the cemeteries when it comes to this, because it is tricky. You don't want to come down. It's hard to go to a family that puts some toys by their kid's headstone and say, sorry, this doesn't. So I get why some of that cleanup gets left, but unfortunately, if you don't check it after a while, and it goes unchecked, we've seen the flip side. So you hope that people are conscientious no matter what their situation is, but the best thing you can do are suggestions like yours. It's how you communicate that with them, keeping it in a way that's a sort of an open communication.
Or make it a game. You know what? I would encourage everybody, if you're a cemetery owner or manager, pick what your date for cleanup is going to be and invite everybody as if it's some big event. Have a food truck, have things to do, have activities for the kids, and have everybody get involved and take care of those grave spaces. People don't visit every day, people don't visit every week or every month, and it can get away from you very, very quickly. So think about ways that you can reinvent it and speak to people like adults and have good conversations and communication while you're doing it.
If you don't, picture yourself up on your local news.
Yeah.
They love anything about cemeteries where people have been done wrong. People like to go to the news for it, and news stations love it because it's controversial. There's a bad guy,
right?
And there are honest, good people who just want to be with their grandma and so forth. So picture yourself on it and say, how do we avoid ending up on the news? At least it's not going to be enough at that point to say, well, we had a note in the church bulletin.
Right. You call the news, you tell them all the cool stuff you're doing, and you invite them to make yourself the good guy. They said there's no such thing as bad press. I'd have to disagree.
It's never good when you're the one in the pile.
Yeah.
By the way, last thing is, if you do end up clearing everything out in a big way, be discreet. Don't have a sloppy pile somewhere. There's got to be a better way, right?
Hi, my name's Walt Sanders with Memorial Mortuaries and Cemeteries at the Redwood location. I just want to explain, this is a shed that we've put together as a convenience for our families to have some flowers or some decorations that are synthetic that are here that are past kind of a cleanup date. In the cemetery, each part of the cemetery, we have sections that are cleaned up on a weekly basis during the mowing season. And when there's some synthetic decorations that are there, if they're left there and they're elaborate in nature, we bring them back here as a courtesy for the family and stage them here for a couple weeks to give them a chance to come pick those up.